So good day everyone, welcome to my lecture video series on grammar. Although topic and subject verb agreement, pronoun subject agreement, the correct preposition among others have been discussed over many times, still many are confused on their uses. What seems to be the problem? I believe it is in the practice of using the English language. In the Philippines, for instance, we are using language as our medium of instruction in schools or in classes. However, when we got home, we are using our first language, which is Filipino. We are fortunate in the Philippines that are we already have that kind of reputation wherein they are other countries are not requiring as secure certificate or permit that we are eligible to enter in a different schools in other schools abroad because of our reputation that we are using English as our second language. So there are some non-English speaking countries that are still studying English in order for them to get certificate, for them to get a job, or for them to study in other countries. So just like for example in the Philippines, we are requiring our foreign students who come from non-English speaking countries to to secure certificate that they have already passed the English examination. So for them to be admitted in our universities or colleges here in our country. For this lecture, I will be sharing you some of the topics on grammar review. There's nothing new with the video. It's just that I would like to contribute on helping others who are struggling with using the correct grammar as they converse with other people, as they develop their technical writing works, just like when writing their thesis or writing their letters among others. So this will be 5 series of lecture, and for this lecture we shall be focusing on the subject verb agreement. And with that, I will be sharing you my my lecture on the subject verb agreement. Okay, so for our first topic, we'll be discussing the uses of verbs. So again, when we talk of verbs, we are pertaining to um, the transitive and intransitive verbs. That will be a different topic on how to identify transitive and intransitive verbs. But again, when we talk of verbs, we are referring to the actions, action words, or words that suggest action or describe action, okay, or reflect action. So it could also referring to is, are, the linking verbs is, are, and even do, does, etc. are among others. So these are the things that we'll be focusing on this lecture. So for our first examples, you notice here Teresa comes early for work, and our answer here is comes. And for our example, the teachers agree with Anne. So the correct answer is uh, agree. So what is the explanation behind this? In general rule, we say that if the subject is singular, it must take singular form of the verb. If it is plural, the subject is plural, we should use plural form of the verb. So how do we determine if the subject is singular or plural? So it's very easy to identify. So most of the time, those that end with s, nouns that end with s, are in plural form, but that shouldn't be the case most of the time because we do have several exceptions to that rule, and we just need to identify the number. So a verb must agree with the subject and number and person. It requires common knowledge to determine the number. Okay, so s is added to a verb if the subject is singular, and s is not added to a verb if the subject is plural. So this is what makes it um, difficult for the others to differentiate which one is singular and which one is plural. It's because in noun we say we add s if the noun is plural, and we do not add s if it's singular. But it's a different case if we are referring to a verb, wherein in a verb we add s if the verb is singular, and if it's plural we do not add s. Again, s with s singular, without s is plural if you are referring to a verb. So next is we have you are and I write. You are and I write. So you notice that we use plural verb when we are using the pronoun you and pronoun I. So they are always taking uh, a plural verb, although they are singular in meaning. Although you can be either plural in meaning or singular in meaning, so that depends on how it is used in the sentence. But I, being singular, always use the base form of the verb. So we use we use plural verb for these instances. Okay. Next example is enclosed is are my biodata. So this sentence is expressed in the so-called inverted word order, wherein the real subject comes after the verb. Wherein in our example here, is our verb and my biodata is our subject. So it is in an inverted word order. So the verb always agree with the real subject, and on this case the real subject is my biodata. So if we're just going to check it, we just have to transpose it into a normal word order. Let's say my biodata is enclosed. So my biodata is enclosed. Since biodata is singular, then we'll be using the verb is. So it's it's similar with the previous example that we discussed, but the different one is the use of there in our statement. So here there is are many members who cannot attend the meeting. The real subject here is many members. The real subject here is many members, wherein it the verb agrees with this noun, many members. In our second example, here is your pen. Here is your pen. The real subject here is pen. That is where the verb is must agree. Just like the previous example, it is expressed in an inverted word order. So if you're just going to transpose it into normal word order, we say your pen is here. Your pen is here. So here is the rule that you should bear in mind. When the sentence begins with there is, there are, here is, or here are, the verb must agree with the real subject which follows the verb. So there is or there are, if it is expressed in that manner, the verb or the subject comes after the verb most of the time. Next we have one of those who came here looks like my cousin, and one of the things that attracts people to this place is its peaceful environment. So the verb here does not agree with the number of the object in the prepositional phrase. Instead, because of the word one, it suggests that of those things or of those people, we are referring to only one person or one object or one thing. So that is why for this example, one of those who came here looks like my cousin. So since we are pertaining to one person, one here is referring to one person only. Hence, we will be using the verb looks. And one of the things that attracts people to this place is its peaceful environment. So since we are pertaining to one thing here, we will be using the singular verb attracts. So here is the things that you have to be reminded of. The phrase one of those who and one of the things that should be followed by singular verb because the noun refers to only one object or one subject. The following suggests amount, period of time, quantity, and even distance. So that depends on the number that they are suggesting on which uh, number of verb we have to use, singular or plural. So, for example, the 5 pesos on the table is are for your allowance today. So if your answer is that you are correct because is there is representing a total amount. And what is the clue in the sentence? The clue here is allowance today. Since we are giving total amount of money for our allowance, so therefore the term allowance suggests one amount or a total amount only. This is unlike with the second example, which is quite tricky because there's really a need for you to comprehend or to understand the thought or the meaning of the statement. So here, 5 pesos on the table were was found by the janitor. So which one is correct? So were. Why? Because it is representing separate units. It means to say that there are 5 pieces of 1 peso on the table and wherein the total amount of that 1 peso on the table is 5. But since we are pertaining to what the janitor found on the table, we are pertaining to the pieces of the amount or of the money. Therefore, it should be expressed in plural verb. That is why we use were. In our second example, 10 years of absence means eternity for me. Should be means. 5 kilos of rice is are too heavy for me to carry. It should be is. 100 meters is are a long distance for a newly operated patient. Is or are. Should be what? Is. Why? Because if we are representing period of time, quantity, distance, they are expressed in singular form unless otherwise we are pertaining to two different measurements or entities being measured. Let's say for example, 5 kilos of rice and 2 kilos of corn are heavy for me to carry. Since 5 kilos of rice and 2 kilos of corn we are pertaining to two subjects there, therefore they are expressed in plural form, hence should take the plural verb are. So those are some of the instances. Okay, again, not most of the time. They are in singular form, but there is a need for us to analyze if they are representing individual units. Therefore, the plural verb or a plural verb should be used. Again, use a singular verb when the noun expresses distance, quantity, period of time, or amount of money representing a total amount. The man and woman needs advice. Both apples and oranges are delicious. Generally speaking, if we are joining two or more subjects joined by a coordinator or conjunction and they are always taking plural form, hence should take plural verb. Okay, so the man and woman, and obviously they are plural because we're pertaining to two entities here. Both apples and oranges are delicious, and because obviously we are pertaining to two entities, the apples and the oranges. So singular subjects joined by and or by both require a plural verb. However, this is not always the case because there are some instances wherein we join uh, two or more subjects using and, but they are expressing one unit or one entity, therefore they should take singular form of the verb. So next we will be mentioning these exemptions to the rule. First is bread and butter is are his favorite breakfast. So bread and butter is considered as one entity because once you put a butter inside the bread or two loaves of bread and then you dip you put them as one, therefore they are considered as one object already, hence or one subject already, hence they should take singular form of the verb. That is why we use bread and butter is his favorite breakfast. However, there are some instances wherein the statement is giving us a clue if they are referring to one object or one subject. So let's say, for example, the president and treasurer of our company are my mother, my mother. This one suggests that both the president and the treasurer of the company is referring to the mother. Hence, they are or it is expressing singular subject, therefore must take singular form of the verb. That is why we use is. So it really requires comprehension in order for you to do so, to choose the correct verb. So another one is every boy and girl has have a right to grow to full capacity. Each officer and member attends the meeting. So as you notice, we use here the words every and each. So what should be the right or correct verb to be used? Should be every boy and girl has a right to grow to full capacity and each officer and member attends the meeting. So if we're just going to look at the statement, they look like singular in meaning. I'm no, sorry, they look like plural in meaning, but actually they are expressing singular thought or singular subject. So, when said subjects are modified by each and every, though these are connected by the conjunction end, a singular verb is needed. So, let's say, for example, every boy and girl. So, there are five boys and five girls in a group. You are not pertaining to them as a whole. You are pertaining to every one of them. Every one of them. The same is true with officers and members. Let's say, for example, there are five officers and there are five members. You are not pertaining to all of them. You are pertaining to each one of the officer and member. Okay, so that's how. That's the reason why it takes singular verb. So again, if these subjects are modified by each and every, though they are connected by the conjunction end, singular verb is needed. So the box as well as the envelopes are on the table. So the real subject here is the box. And as well as the envelopes is only just an intervening modifier or intervening phrase which does not affect the number. So the box as well as the envelope are on the table. Should be is because again the real subject here is. The same is true with our second example. Anna, together with her friends, goes to the party. Our real subject here is Anna, and together with her friends is only just an intervening phrase, which again does not affect the number of the sentence or the subject, the real subject in the sentence. Therefore, we'll be using goes. So, Anna goes to the party. So, what are these intervening phrases? Among these are as well as, together with, in addition to, and words such as with, including ben and between, including between and by. These are uh, intervening phrases or intervening words which does not affect the number. Let's say, for example, using with, the boy with his friend attends the meeting. Attends the meeting. So the boy with his friends attends the meeting. Okay, so with his friends does not affect the number of the real subject of the statement. Again, we have to look at the real subject in the sentence. Either Ben or Tony are the hero. Neither the managers nor the laborers begins the protest. So can be the verb can be either singular or plural. That depends on the closest subject. So if they are expressed with either or neither no, we have to look at the closest subject. So in our first example, the closest subject is Tony. And what is the number of Tony? Tony is singular. Therefore, we have to use singular verb. That is why we use is. Neither the managers nor the laborers begins to protest. So the closest subject here is the laborers, which is plural. Therefore, we have to use the plural verb begin. Okay, so again, we have to look at the closest or the nearest verb and the nearest subject in order for us to identify which correct number of verb to be used. Okay, then if we are using or, let's say a book or flowers usually makes an appropriate gift. So the closest subject here is the flowers, which is plural. Therefore, we have to use plural verb, which is make. Okay. And our second example here, neither the managers nor the laborer begins the protest. So the closest subject here is the laborer, which is singular. Therefore, we have to use the singular verb begins. So again, when a singular and a subject are joined together by neither nor, either or, the verb agrees to the nearer or to the nearest or to the closest subject. So take note of that. So the apples from the box are rotten. One are rotten. One of the pupils' notebook is are neatly covered. So there are some instances wherein that we have the so-called prepositional phrase, and the number of the object of the prepositional phrase does not affect the number of the real subject. So in our example here, the real subject here is the apples, and our prepositional phrase is from the box. It is called prepositional phrase because it is introduced by the preposition from. The box is what we call the object of the preposition. So the number of the object of the preposition does not affect the number of the real subject. Again, in our example, the apples from the box are rotten. The real subject here is the apples. So what is the correct word to be used? We'll be using are. In our second example, one of the pupils' notebooks are neatly covered. Our real subject here is one, and of the pupil's notebooks is our prepositional phrase, and the object of the preposition is the pupil's notebook. Again, it does not affect the number of the object of the preposition does not affect the number of the real subject. Though notebooks is plural, the verb is singular because of the word one. Therefore, we should use the verb is. So again, a prepositional phrase that follows the subject does not affect the number of the verb. There are some instances wherein there are words that are expressed in plural form but singular in meaning, hence should take singular verb. Again, words that are expressed in singular form, in plural form, words that are expressed in plural form, singular in meaning, must take singular verb. Just like our, for example, the news. So news ends with S, so we might thought that it is plural, but actually it is singular. So therefore, we have to use is. The same with missiles. Missile ends with S. But actually, it might be plural in form, but it is singular in meaning and must take singular form of the verb. So, measles is an infectious disease. Among other words that are plural in form, singular in meaning, and must take singular verb are as follows: means, summons, works, missiles, mumps, news, civics, physics, mathematics, among others. There are also instances wherein the word is plural in form, singular in meaning, but must take plural verb. Again, there are words that are plural in form, singular in meaning, but must take plural verb. For example, her riches help the poor. Riches is plural in form, singular in meaning, and takes a plural verb. The same way with wages. Their wages are given every end of the month. Wages is plural in form, singular in meaning, but must take plural verb. So it's different from the previous examples. So among the other words that are plural in form, singular in meaning, but should take plural verb are as follows: proceeds, riches, valuables, wages, among others. So there are also words that are expressed as one unit, but actually uh, they are expressed in plural form because they come as pair. So my scissors are sharp. The trouser fits her waist. So my scissors, although we see that a scissor is only just a one object, but the scissors that we are pertaining here are the blades, wherein scissor is composed of two blades that makes it plural. So therefore, my scissors are sharp. So when we talk of trousers, trousers is a British term for pants. So we are pertaining to the legs of the trousers or of the pants. So if you are referring to trousers, we are referring to the two legs. Two legs. So if we only just refer to trouser, we're only just pertaining to one leg. So since these words are these words denote pairs should be always in plural form and they are require plural form of the verb. So among the examples are pliers and pants, even pajamas. Okay? So again, my scissors, trousers, pliers, pants, pajamas, they are always denoting pairs and must take plural form and must use plural verb. Titles Title of a play, book, film, painting, or musical composition is always singular and should take singular form. So Pride and Prejudice makes her heart beats fast. On our second example, I think it should be Snow White instead of Cinderella. So Cinderella and the Seven Dwarfs fascinates her. So again, titles of play, book, film, painting, and the likes should always be expressed in singular form and should take singular form of the verb. If you're referring to mathematical formula or mathematical equation, they are always expressed in singular form. So let's say, for example, 5 plus 5 is 10. 7 and 7 is 14. So if you're pertaining to mathematical equation and their answers on that mathematical equation, so that is always expressed in singular form. So therefore, we are using singular verb. Now we have the number of and a number of. If we are using the number of errors, so we use is. If we're using a number of, it is always plural. Okay? So again, the number of is always singular, a number of is referring to is always plural. So what is the reason behind it? So the number of errors is diminishing. So if you're the person you're talking to someone, the person whom you're talking with has already an idea of the number that you are referring to because the article does suggest that it is a definite noun. So the number of, it suggests definite noun. So therefore, the person whom you're talking with know already that number that you're referring to, hence suggests that it express singular thought, hence suggests to use singular verb. So a number of, because of the article a on the not a number and a number, so it suggests that it is indefinite, meaning when we talk of indefinite now, it suggests that we do not have idea as to what is that number. So in order for us to solve that case, the rule applies that we have to use a plural verb. Therefore, a number of should use a plural verb. So a number of our teachers are doing well. So the number singular, a number plural. Okay, again, the number singular, a number is plural. The children doesn't don't seem nervous. Of course, children is plural, so we have to use don't. Okay? Do is used or do or does are are used depending on the number. Does is used for singular and do is used for plural. So doesn't and don't are also used depending on the number. Doesn't for singular, don't for plural. So just like Kim doesn't ride the bus because again, um, does or doesn't for singular, do and don't for plural. Next is the use of the term the class. So the class can be either singular or plural that depends on the thought of the statement. So let's say, for example, the class were divided in their opinions of the play. Okay? If you're referring to the members of the class, you use were, because the statement divided suggests that there are different numbers, different groups in the class who have their differing or different opinions, which suggests that you're referring to every members of the class. So that suggests a plural number for the class. However, if you're referring to the class as one, so let's say the class has decided to have a science fair in November, has decided, meaning to say all of them agree. All of them agree. So therefore, it is singular. So again, collective nouns such as class may be either singular or plural. So that depends on the number. So uh, what are these collective nouns? Could be group of persons, group of animals, or group of things. So that depends on the meaning of the statement. So you really need to understand the meaning of the sentence. So it takes singular verb when the noun refers to the group as a unit, and it takes plural when the noun refers to individual parts of the group. Okay, individual parts of the group. Just like the class divided their opinions to individual parts of the group, the different group which have different opinions. So next is some of the crowd have left. Okay, so some is singular because it means a part of the crowd. Okay, that's why we use has. However, some of the fans are getting autographs because some is plural because again it refers to more than one fan. So where do we determine if the use of plural or singular verb mat uh, the use of singular or plural in the verb? So that depends on the number of the object in the preposition of the. So let's say, for example, the indefinite pronouns such as all, again, all, any, most, none, and some may either singular or pronouns. So its number is determined by the number of the object in the prepositional phrase. A pronoun refers to singular, it's singular. It's the same thing with plural. So for example, some of the crowd here is singular because you're pertaining to the group, which is the crowd. So therefore, if we pertain to a group, the object of the preposition of the crowd is singular, we have to use singular has. So some of the fans of the fans is our prepositional phrase, and the fans is our object of the preposition. Since the fans is in plural form, we'll be using are. Okay, so again, indefinite pronouns such as all, any, most, none, and some may either be singular or plural. That depends on the number of the subject or the number of the object and the prepositional phrase. So if the object of the prepositional phrase is singular, then use singular verb. If the object of the prepositional phrase is plural, then use plural verb. So let's try the following. So you can jot down your answer or jot down your answers on the following items. So for number one, each morning Rachel and Joanna run past my window on their way to the train station. Okay, just the correct verb. Okay, for number two, either the dog or the kids next door have set next of the alarm we left in the flower bed. Okay, just the correct verb. Then Bob, who recently quit smoking, and I am are going to the store to buy as much gum as we can. Just the correct verb. Okay, finally, everyone who has seen Bill and Gloria think things they'd look less silly if they stopped wearing each other's clothes to work. Okay, then last, none of the paper is are suitable for engraved invitations. Okay. Okay, so the first one is run because the compound subject with and. Have the verb agrees to kids, which is the nearest subject. are, Bob and I are the real subjects and are considered plural. Thinks, the verb agrees to everyone, which is the real subject. And is, the verb agrees on the object of the preposition, which is the paper. So how many items you got correctly? And you have filled in again your bean with Sir Batch Learning Bean. And thank you very much for listening. Okay, let's discard this. Okay, so that's it for today. So thank you very much for spending your time listening to our discussion. So for next meeting, we'll be discussing about the noun, uh, the subject, pronoun agreement. So last time we have subject verb agreement, but the next meeting we will be focusing on noun or pronoun agreement.